Hi everyone, Sean here. As you can see already, I have my budget from last week up. So hopefully you guys have yours up as well. I hid scenario 2, so it's just a scenario 1 now, but I actually want to make this called our original because we're going to use it as our original spreadsheet. So this were the original inputs for week 1's assignment, and then scenario 2 was when we started messing with, if you remember, Madge. I think we cut her salary in half, as well as made her a part-time employee, as well as I think we may have changed a couple prices. So this is our original budget. So we went through that last week, and now I want to teach you forecasting, sensitivity analysis, and scenario analysis. And I'm going to do that in 3 videos. So this first video is going to be completely forecasting. So what we're going to do is we're going to have our first year's worth of data, and based on that data, we're going to forecast exactly what it could be in the years to come. So to do that, we need to build something out to show and resemble 4 more years of business. So the way it's set up right now isn't very friendly for that. So I'm going to make a lot of edits to this spreadsheet, and hopefully you guys can see why I'm going to do that to make it flow for more years to come. Because right now, as we have things in a couple different columns, we want that all in one column for each year. So to get started, I'm actually going to move this year 1 up to the top, and I'm actually going to call it the base year. In column E, I'm going to call that our year 1, F year 2, G year 3, H year 4. And I'll bold those. I'm going to get rid of my borders for now. So all you do is highlight the area and say no border. And then I'm going to delete row 9. And I'm going to delete the profit margin for now. You can always bring it back so you know how to calculate that now. As you can see, this does not line up properly, the uses. So I want to move those over to this general area, so I'm going to have to insert a few rows here. And I'm going to highlight and drag. Again, this 120 doesn't line up, so I'm just going to drag it over one cell. Alright, and I can get rid of a row. And I can insert a row here. No fill. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to cut it. So right click and hit cut. Go to B3 and go into the cell and paste it. And as you can see, this whole row is not in black ink right now, so I want to change it back to automatic. Now you can see that the variables and inputs. And I'm actually going to merge this cell and center it, which there's a nice button, merge and center, under alignment in the home tab. And I'm going to put an outside border and an outside border around this larger area below cost per tire, because these are our variables and inputs. And I'm actually going to left align that, but you get the point. So these need to be centered as well to stay consistent. This one has a border around it, and it shouldn't. And do that again. Okay. So our inputs are up here above, and below it's going to calculate everything. Actually, I should include sales as part of that input. So let me fix my border once more. So no border, outside border. And you can see these are our inputs, right? These are our hard keyed data. So we actually type these in. It's not formula driven at all. Revenues are formulated, remember, because we're multiplying the sales times the source. Variable cost is formulated because we are taking the cost per tire times how many tires we sell. And then, as you know, below here, these fixed costs, some of them are actually hard keyed, and we're going to have to play with these later, but we're not going to put them up at the variable piece at the top, because these costs are not reflective of how much of the product we sell. So we're going to keep just the box up here and not around any of the fixed data down here. Alright, so as you can see, some of the fixed costs aren't lined up right now, so again, highlight the salaries and just drag them over. As you can see, none of the formulas change when you just highlight the box, the cells that you want to move and move them. As you might remember, in scenario 2 last week, we made a full-time, part-time column. So I'm actually going to do that again because that might come into some helpful use later on if we change employee status again, or even make new employees, or whatever it may be, so that we know that this general column is calculating our health insurance, because what we said before was if they're full-time or part-time, calculate how many there are full-time to times 10,000 and give us that health insurance, which is right here. Which I had to change this formula because remember we did that in scenario 2. So right now it's just a count. I'll make it a count if function once I do this real quick. So everybody here is full-time. If I could type. So there's 3 of them. I'm going to center all of this, and I'm actually going to give it a little color so I know it's different from everything else I'm doing. And then, like I said, health insurance, we want to change our formula. So count if, and we have our range. Then go to the end of that range, hit comma. The criteria is quotations full-time. We need to move our range over. There we go. All set. Okay, now we can actually work on forecasting, and all this is going to be is carrying over new formulas, and pretty easy actually. So what I want to do, which you'll see more in scenario analysis, is I want the next year to be calculated based on the year before that. And you'll see how we do that in the scenario video, because we're going to say, you might assume a 3% increase in price every year. So how do we do that? Well, we want to be equal to the year prior times whatever that increase is. So right now, the easiest thing to do is just have it equal the year prior. So I'm saying E5 is equal to D5, right? So then in F5, I want that to say it's equal to E5, and then G5 I want to say equal to F5, and same with H. So the easiest thing to do is go to E5 and drag this across. And we can drag this down as well because we want to carry that each formula for all the others. And then I'm just going to copy this for cost, and I'm going to paste the formula, not everything, because I'll show you, if I paste everything, it changes our format, right? But if I do paste special, just formulas, it'll keep. I actually didn't bring over the same format as left, so I guess it doesn't matter. So troubles. Okay, so then I'm going to highlight these cells and just hit the comma again in number. And there we go. And you can see our border's gone again. So, we want to get rid of these decimals because we're not going to sell half of a product or any type of decimal. So we don't need that. And we're going to create our border again. And we are all set there. Okay, so since these are formula driven and we want to calculate the same for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, same with variable costs, we can actually highlight these cells and drag the formulas over. And it's also going to run the formats as well, which is helpful. So you can see it's all the same right now because all of our inputs, prices and costs, they're all identical year over year, which we will change that in scenario analysis. Okay. Now, I could do the same thing for our fixed costs, but like I said before, our fixed costs can change year over year. They're not formula driven based on inputs already. These are the inputs. So what we want to do is say it's equal to the year prior, like we did above. So these are for salary data, or this is for salary data. And I'm going to copy this row. Okay, but total wages, you can see total wages is a function of those above it. So we want that to be the same year over year. So we want it to add up the 3 wages that we have in now. So I can actually drag this formula over. Now health insurance, this is a function of if there are full-time or part-time, right? So we can actually do the same thing as we did with the wages, just have it equal to the year prior, because we might put an increase on health insurance costs. I'm getting little green triangles in the top left of the corners here. It's going to tell me it's an inconsistent formula when I drop down on this exclamation point. And I just want to hit ignore because I know it is actually consistent with what I know. Excel's just trying to be helpful and say, hey, you might have an error here because this formula is different than the ones above it and below it. But just hit ignore. Payroll tax is the same as above. So what we're going to do is highlight health insurance line from E38 through H38 and drag it down because it's payroll, rent, utilities, office supplies, tools and equipment. Those are all input data that we might want to have an increase year over year. And that gets us down to total fixed cost and operating expense and total profit, which we can then drag all of these over. Okay, and now I'm just going to put a giant thick border over all of this just so it's visually nice for me. Now you can see that you just forecasted 4 years of data based off of your base year, and the only thing left to do now for forecasting's sake is bring in a growth rate based on our sales, because what we're going to do is we're going to forecast we're going to do a forecast based on an increase in sales year over year, and I'm going to call this the growth rate. And I'm going to highlight this whole entire row. The first one's going to be NA, if I could type, because I told you the base year is never going to change because that has already happened. But we're going to use 100% for the rest of them right now. So you can type it in manually or copy and paste, whatever is easiest for you. Okay, and left align that so it's consistent. And what we're saying is, I put 100% in there because that's assuming that 100% is assuming that it would be the same year over year, and you can see that when I do this calculation. So if you start in E15, you enter that cell, which is already equal to D15. You multiply it by E13, which is at 100%. It's going to be 1,000, right? So you sold the same exact as you did the year prior. And you can drag this, well, actually, I'm going to show you something kind of funny. If you drag this down, you can see that the formula doesn't work anymore. The reason why is because we want this formula to stay on row 13. So it says E13. When we drag it over and down, we never want to move off of row 13. We do want to move columns, right? So we want to go from column E to column H, because when we drag that across, we want it to be calculating off the year we're actually analyzing. So to do that, you put a $sign before the 13, and that tells Excel to recognize to never move it off of that row. If I put a $sign in front of the E, that's telling Excel to never move it off that column. So D15 times E13. You drag that across and see it works, right? And down, nothing changed. Now, when you type in, say we're going to expect a 5% increase the first 2 years, and then it's going to jump to 110, right? So 5% for the first 2 years, and then 10% in years 3 and 4. You can see that the first one's 50, right? $50 or a 50 unit increase because it's 5% times 1,000. That's 50. The next one isn't a 50 unit increase, it's a 53 unit increase because it's now multiplying off the year prior. So yes, it's the same growth rate, but you can see it actually calculates to be a couple more units because it's calculating off year one now and not off the base year. And you can see that right here. Then we jump to obviously 10% and 10%. So that's how we're going to use growth rates. You can put these all back to 100 because this is going to be our original spreadsheet. And I lost some formatting, so I'm just going to fix that right now. I'll put a bottom border on this whole row. Okay. And I'm going to put my thick border over the entire piece. And now you can see that, to me, it looks nice, so I'm happy with it. You can see that what I highlighted here, we might be changing these, so that's just visually for me to notice that I have full-time and part-time employees here. Growth rates are something that we might change, so that's highlighted as well. And we might be changing some of these prices as well. And you'll see, like I said, in sensitivity, we're going to have, it's going to be calculation driven based on, we expect increases over the 4 years to be whatever. So this is the video on forecasting. I hope it was helpful. I'll see you guys with scenario analysis as well as sensitivity analysis.